Okay, I think we can get started. Um, Welcome to the South Florida Poetry Journal's monthly reading. We have a reading every month that we don't have an issue launch. And when there's an issue that's launching for that quarter, we have a reading of the people who are in that issue. So that's called a launch reading. And the other months we have this regular reading series reading. So thank you, first of all, to our poets, Dustin and Nin, for being here today. We really appreciate your bringing your work to us. And thank you to all of you who are joining to listen and then have questions and conversation afterward with our two featured poets. We have a lot of the same people come back all the time, and then we have new people every time, and it's always wonderful. And you're all very, very welcome to be here. So the first poet I'm going to introduce is a longtime friend of mine, Dustin Brookshire. His pronouns are he, him. He's the recipient of the 2024 John Tribble Editors Fellowship, and he's the author of 4 chapbooks, the most recent, which is Repeat as Needed by Harbor Editions, published this year. The other chapbook he has is Never Picked First for Playtime, also from Harbor Editions. Love Most of You Too, from Harbor Editions, and To the One Who Raped Me, Sibling Rivalry Press 2012. He's co-editor for an anthology called Let Me Say This, a Dolly Parton poetry anthology that was published by Madville Publishing in 2023. And he's also editor of When I Was Straight, a tribute to Maureen Seaton, that was published by Harbor Editions in 2024. Dustin's poems have been published in or are forthcoming in the South Florida Poetry Journal, 5 Points, South Carolina Review, Pleiades, Tab, and in numerous other publications. His work has been featured on NPR and other radio stations, in Georgia Poetry in the Parks, the Best American Poetry blog, and he's earned Pushcart and Best of the Net nominations. He's most lovingly known as the Zoom-based curator of Wild and Precious Life series, and you can find him online at dustinbrookshire.com. The stage is yours, Dustin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. First, I want to extend my gratitude to South Florida Poetry Journal, to Judy, Michael, and Lenny for all of the work that y'all do in the community. You know how much y'all mean to me. And South Florida Poetry Journal is why the Maureen Seaton Poetry Prize exists. It would not exist without them. So if you would, let's give them a round of applause. Use the reactions for South Florida Poetry Journal. They're just damn good people. And I also have to say, to read with Nan Andrews is one of my little bucket list items. You know, we all have them as poets. I have loved Nin's work ever since I was turned on to it. And so this is just a little dream come true for me tonight. So I'm so glad that this is happening. I'm going to start out with a poem because I know that Nin likes this poem. And when do you get to read a poem for someone you idolize and you know that they like it? And I should hit my timer because I'm all in my feels. I should write soap operas. My neighbor appeared with a baby a few weeks ago. I've been meaning to tell Paul about the baby, but the daily humdrum of life, work, rest, right, has hindered my thoughts. Today, we were walking Daisy and turned a corner, and there she was, baby strapped to chest, with its legs swinging. I think it might be a boy, but I'm not sure. All the other times I've seen it, it's been covered in a red blanket, which is no help since red is like yellow when babies are concerned. Anyway, I'm losing track of my point. I think the baby's stolen. Paul tells me she's probably babysitting. I say she probably stole it. Paul rolls his eyes and tells me she can steal the baby in one of my poems. But that's not why I'm writing this poem. I'll admit I'm the kind of guy who enjoys a giggle when I hear about someone objecting at a wedding. I'll admit I've watched soap operas since I was 8 and rooted for the villain most of the time. I adored Vivian and Sammy on Days of Our Lives. My mother threatened to quit taping episodes when I cheered for them. You might not know Sammy stole her baby sister. Well, she stole her half baby sister, but only she and her cheating mother Marlena knew about the half part. I'm not saying this is the case with the mystery baby in my building. I'm only saying it's okay not to accept what's in front of you at face value. So, in honor, I was thinking about Nin's Son of a Bird and prose poem, sort of a memoir. And I have a suite of duplexes that I don't really read that often. I think I've actually only read them once because they really need to be read together. And if you don't know, a duplex is a form invented by Jericho Brown. It's a 14-line poem. There's a lot of repetition. I'm oversimplifying it, but look up the form. But we're about to get really, really intense. Trigger warning, there's going to be sexual assault, addiction. It's going to be heavy, and I'm just going to go through them because they're just meant to be read together. If you need to put me on mute, I'm not going to be offended because, again, these are going to be some pretty heavy, and occasionally one poem is sort of graphic, just to warn you. And I love a long title, so all of them have long titles. A COVID duplex, or a poem about my mother stressing over unimportant things. Your father needs fruit, my mother texts from her hospital bed 700 miles away. From her hospital bed 700 miles away, my mother refuses to take her COVID medications. My mother refuses to take her medications, but she tells us she's following doctor's orders. She insists she's following doctor's orders. This isn't the first lie she's told. We have lists of lies that she's told. This isn't the first time she's heard us. If only this was the first time she's heard us. She's always struggled with setting priorities. She's always struggled with setting priorities. Did your did you buy your father fruit? My mother texts. HIPAA violation duplex, or how we started talking about my mother's addiction. I should have been mad at the guy I was dating. He looked at my medical history at the pharmacy. He browsed my records at the pharmacy and said my profile was flagged, abuses pain meds. He told me I was labeled for abusing pain meds because I filled too many prescriptions for Lortab. I hadn't filled any prescriptions for Lortab, but I knew who in my family had. I knew who in my family had and told my brother and father over lunch at Longhorn. I told my brother and father over lunch the tension couldn't be cut with a steak knife. The tension couldn't be cut with a steak knife. I should have filed a complaint against the guy I was dating. Adult homework duplex, or a poem about writing intervention letters. Like we were cramming for an exam, we wrote our letters the night before. We set hours writing our letters the night before. Make a connection. Share how the addiction hurt you. Make a connection. Share how the addiction hurt you. Don't say she hurt you. It was the addiction. Don't say she hurt you. Remember, the addiction hurt you. We stood around the room, a semicircle. We stood around the room, a semicircle, my brother, father, and aunt, and the interventionist. My brother, father, and aunt and I read our letters to my mother as she snarled in bed. We read our letters as she sat in bed. My mother made sure we failed that exam. Another COVID duplex, or a poem about my mother's best friend, Virginia. My mother's best friend calls my brother. She shares questions she has for the doctor. No one asked her, but she shares her questions for the doctor, adds, "You probably didn't think to ask these. You probably didn't think to ask how long before a chest tube will work. How long before a chest tube works? The doctor isn't sure she needs a chest tube. We don't even know if she needs a chest tube. This woman isn't a nurse, our friend, or family. This woman isn't a nurse, our friend, or even family. She doesn't think we're looking out for our mother. God only knows what she's heard about us from our mother. So we're not one damn bit surprised that this woman calls my brother. Traveling from the state facility to rehab duplex, or a poem where my mother crosses a goddamn line. After the 10-13 hold, My father picks her up from the state facility. I call to check in on what she thinks is a ride home. He's driving her to rehab, not to home. I call. It's what I do. I check on people. She won't be suspicious. It's true. I check on people. She says we traumatized her with the intervention. She says the intervention took her back. It was traumatizing. Our words took her back to a molestation. It took me back to being molested, she says twice. You should know what it's like. You've been raped. I've been raped, yes. I know. I know. I never expected my mother to use my rape. Who expects a mother to weaponize her child's rape? In my anger, I wanted her to rot in that facility. Preparing for the final family therapy session at Rehab Duplex, or a poem about how my mother forced me to tell my brother about my rape. In our hotel room, before we go to family week, I tell my brother that I was raped. I tell my brother that I was raped because I want him to hear it one on one. I want my brother to hear the words from me before I discuss the topic in family session. I discuss my rape in our family session. I tell my mother she has no right. She has no right to ever mention my rape again. I tell her in front of my father, brother, and her therapist. I tell her in front of her therapist, my father, and brother. I fight tears of rage as I speak each word to her. I fight tears as I say each word to my brother in our hotel room before we attend the first day of Family Week. Second herniated disc duplex, or a poem about how I have to take Loratab. I herniate a second disc while living in Charleston. Standing hurts, sitting hurts, moving hurts. Standing, sitting, moving, it all hurts. The doctor prescribes Loratab every 4 hours. I take Loratab as prescribed every 4 hours. I count the minutes until relief. I count the minutes until relief comes, and I can't help but think about my mother. I can't help but think about my mother. Loratab, she took it 4 times a day. My mother took Loratab and other narcotics every day. I worry, with this script, could I become her? I worry that I could become my mother while I nurse a herniated disc in Charleston. Sexual assault confession duplex, or a poem about the Christmas Eve that's burned into memory. She told me what I already feared was true. It was Christmas Eve. I was sitting on the couch. I was sitting on the couch when she told me he molested her. She told me her brother molested her. They were young when it happened. They were children when it happened. He made her hold a chicken. Yes, he made her hold a chicken while he fucked it. Feathers everywhere. She tells me feathers, so many feathers. Why did she let me spend summers with him? Why did my parents let me spend summers with him? Didn't they worry that I'd have a shared truth with my mother? Gripping the Gear Shift Duplex, or a poem that shows my uncle is a predator. I was 10 during one of my summer stays. He drove us on I-75, windows down. He drove us south, windows down, his hand resting on the vibrating gear shift. Hand shifting from resting on to gripping the gear shift, he said, "This is what a woman loves. This is what a woman loves between her legs." I acted like I didn't hear what he said. I didn't want to hear what he said. He continued, "Remember what they love between their legs. I'm telling you what women want between their legs," he insisted. I knew this wasn't a normal thing to say. I knew this wasn't normal for an uncle to say to a 10-year-old during his summer visit. We're through the tense. So now I hope I'm going to make you laugh. And if I don't, fake it. How about that? Faggot learns of Pat Robinson's death and thinks of his favorite Betty Davis quote. You should never say bad things about the dead. You should only say good. Pat Robinson is dead. Good. So I think we do this right as writers. We steal stories. I was on a trip recently and we were enjoying some margaritas around the table and everybody was just sharing this story. And I was like, leaned over to my partner and I said, sorry, I've got to go to the bedroom and start writing this poem. I was like, because this shit is golden. Like I just got to drop this in and change some names. Um, this is called Childhood. Shelley tells us of the time her brothers accidentally dropped binoculars on her forehead, leaving her bloody. Her mother, on a landline long distance call, asked, why do you have nail polish in your hair? Jackson told us about his sister slapping him across the face when he closed a kitchen cabinet too hard. I shared that my brother held me down, arms pinned below his knees, while he gently laid a pillow over my face. No MRIs for me, I laugh as it's back to Shelley. Her middle brother held her down, rubbing his hands furiously over her face, screaming, skin cells, eat my skin cells. Marcus leaves the table, comes back with a bat named the Tennessee Thumper. My sister whacked me right in the stomach. Shelley asks why, and Marcus responds, I'm not sure, but I probably deserved it. Melanie says her sister held her down, spitting loogies, but sucking them up right as the saliva touched her cheek. A collective ooh reverberates around the table. Older siblings, someone says. Everyone laughs as another round of margaritas is poured. No one questions what might have been different. We were talking about prose poems, right before the recording stopped, and I really have been enjoying. I've only started writing them, I think, last year, thanks to Denise Duhamel, who's a huge inspiration of mine as well. She has these great poems that you should check out that all start with poem and witch, and it may be things that are true, but it also dives in. The ones I really love are the ones that dive into the things that are not really true. And that's been my on-ramp. I found that sometimes if I start the poem in which I can write the prose poem and then I can, if I want, take that poem in which off and title it something else. So if you've questioned writing prose poems, I think you should do the poem in which and just go for it and have some fun and see what happens. This is called Survival. We earned Wallen bucks for A's on tests and correct answers in Jeopardy-style competitions. Dr. Wallen's son's face was plastered on every bill. Baby Matthew on the dollar. Toddler Matthew on the Wallen Buck 5. Matthew, his son, my friend, loathed the Monopoly-esque money, but collected nonetheless. Dr. Wallen was the first teacher to tell us that our city, Calhoun, would be destroyed if Carter's Dam imploded. Think of your houses underwater, he said. No one will survive. These were the days before fact checking was at our fingertips. My parents looked puzzled when I shared the news. For weeks, each time our fifth grade class went to the school library, I researched how to survive a flood. I knew the odds weren't in my favor. I still held my nose when jumping in the pool. So I love a villanelle. It is my absolute favorite form to write in. Um, Beth Gillis, I have to give a shout out to Beth Gillis, who is my undergrad professor. Her passion for the villanelle, I think, rubbed off on me. And I had heard Marilyn Nelson, the great Marilyn Nelson, call Beth the Villanelle Queen. So I feel like if Marilyn Nelson calls somebody something, you really can't argue with it because it's Marilyn fucking Nelson. Like she's amazing. So something I'm interested in is writing what I call historic villanelles. Um, and so I'm going to read a couple of those where I'm trying to use history in the form because I find it particularly challenging to do, even though history can repeat itself. Let's look what we're dealing with right now. But revisionist villanelle. Columbus couldn't navigate for shit, but that isn't how his story is told. There's too much history we don't admit. If you praise Columbus quit, he chopped off hands for lack of gold. The man couldn't navigate for shit. In 1500, Ferdinand found Columbus unfit. Spaniards were tired of being controlled. There's too much history we don't admit. Columbus was stripped of his governorship, but still funded to find more gold, even though he couldn't navigate for shit. A tyrant, murderer, enslaver, a culprit textbooks let get away. So many sins untold. There's too much history we don't admit. Columbus was a sex trafficker. We omit, and no one knows how many girls he sold. Christopher Columbus is a piece of shit. There's too much history we won't admit. This poem, I'm going to read the epigraph and then share the title. This epigraph is, I spoke with Mrs. Reagan about the attached telegram. She did not feel this was something the White House should get into. Mark Weinberg, a Reagan staffer. The Nancy and Ronnie Show. In 1986, Nancy Reagan said just say no next to her husband on national television, a glimpse into the Nancy and Ronnie Show. Her slogan's origin, if you didn't know, Nancy said it with motherly precision to a little girl in Oakland, just say no. A spark, the movement began to grow. Thousands of chapters by 88. No division with the writers on the Nancy and Ronnie Show. Mandatory minimum sentences, a blow to further the racist vision. Nancy reminds, you better just say no. Ronnie was purposely slow addressing the AIDS crisis, abscission with the producers on the Nancy and Ronnie Show. Dying, Rock Hudson wrote to Nancy for help. Though they'd known each other for years, her decision, she told her people, just say no. AIDS won't air on the Nancy and Ronnie Show. So now I'm going to move into the chat book. It's a chat book, so I couldn't read you. I could read you the whole chat book in the time I had tonight. So I'm going to close with a few poems from the chat book, and hopefully you'll want to buy a copy if you don't have one. And if you do, use the link on Small Harbor. That's the best way to support the press. They're such a good press to their authors, so I always want them supported. And the other thing I should say about the chat book is every poem is an emulation or clapback. It's inspired by something else. When I was straight, after Maureen Seaton. I stayed home while my mother drove to the grocery store, 2 hours alone to prance in my mother's high heels, wear her dresses and nightgowns, and a white t-shirt as a wig. I'd probe her jewelry box, slip on a ring or two, a necklace, and the bracelet she only wore for special occasions. Sometimes I applied her lipstick with a smile. I'd sit back straight, legs crossed, directing the household staff that we didn't have on the tasks of the day. Vacuum, mop, polish the china, and press the laundry. A boss lady before it was a thing. I'd twirl around the living room with one hand extended, an invitation to a man who wouldn't enter my life for another 35 years. When I was straight, my father would say, I'd rather one of my sons blow my brains out than tell me he's gay. Middle school science class, inspired by Denise Duhamel's Nature. Mrs. Smizer explained the life cycle of stars. Our sun, a yellow dwarf, will become a red giant. Flames will consume Mercury and Venus like appetizers before reaching Earth. My ears ignored the 5 billion year timeline. I exclaimed, we're gonna burn to death. Mrs. Smizer laughed. I don't plan on being around. Giggles wafted through the air. A few students looked as horrified as me. Maybe they too were Baptist raised on fearing a city of flames. I knew God would use the sun for the final destruction. The red giant loomed, my face red from its heat. 2 poems left. Thanks for hanging with me. Ways to get over a broken heart. This was inspired by Carlos Antonio Ricano's portrait Evidence or How to Get Over a Broken Heart. 1. Get lost in the woods. Scream at the trees and the goddamn birds. 2. Drive cross country. Don't stop for gas. Finish the journey on foot. 3. Sob. Sob until God fears you'll one up his flood. 4. Go to Costco. Eat samples. All the samples. 5. Jump in the deep end of a pool, fully clothed. Sink to the bottom. Stay until you feel the choke. 6. Go to the beach. Read The Awakening. Never enter the ocean. 7. Reach into your chest. Pull out the heart shards. Drop them in the disposal. Flip the switch. 8. Remove the remnants of Cupid's fucking arrow. Use the art of kintsugi to meld a stronger heart. 9. Repeat as needed. And if you don't know, the art of kintsugi is taking broken like dishes and things and using gold to meld them back together to make stronger and something beautiful of the broken. And I'm going to close with a poem called Straight People. And I'm sure that there's no straight people that this poem's going to apply to in the Zoom room tonight. And it is inspired by White People Always Want to Tell Me They Grew Up Poor by Megan Fernandez. Straight people don't like to be corrected. Sexual orientation, not sexual preference. Straight people love to message us on Facebook 10 to 15 years after graduation to say, it's okay that you're gay, or I'm proud of you, or yes, queen, or look at you, you go girl. Straight people love to ask with a Leslie style stare, which one of you is the woman? When we respond, we're both guys, they insist, but which one of you, does the woman stuff? Straight people love to tell us, I have a gay friend. Then they ask, do you know him? And we have to say a prayer to Dolly Parton so we don't respond, yes, our homo registry is updated each night and downloads while we sleep. We are Borg. And they love to close the conversation with, y'all should meet. Heterosexual dramatic pause. You'd be so cute together. Trans and bi people never say these things to us. They too deal with heterosexual commentary. Bi people are often teased, you can't make up your mind, or at least your dating odds increased by 50%, or why do you have to be so greedy? Straight people will tell trans people remembering pronouns is hard, forgetting dead names is difficult, but they will give an oral report on all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones without forgetting or mispronouncing a single goddamn name. Straight people will ask trans people, did you have the surgery? Then point below the waist. Straight people will say they love us and vote for politicians seeking to strip us of our rights. Oh, straight people. Straight people. Straight people. Thank you all so much for tonight. And please remember, lots of people are under attack, but please give a shout out and extra love to our trans family. They really need it right now. It's a very scary time and they're very much under attack more than a lot of us are. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Dustin. Very powerful reading as always. Your poems always hit home in a special way.